one of the first things I did when I started tying this pattern, I tied it on a 33.99 Mustad wet ply hook. Used to drive me nuts trying to get bead chain eyes on and get them to be solid. Because as everybody knows, when you tie something flat on a round object, it's going to spin. I have found the most perfect hook in the world because the eye is horizontal. Creates a flat spot. The eyes won't spin. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
By the bicep.
So when you look at that, that gives you a flat spot to wrap the eyes on. Now, when I order these, I order them by the thousands. So I got 2,000 of these hooks at home. That'll last me about a year. Sent this fly to 15 different countries. In every country, it's taken fish. Marble trout in Slovenia. Red-tailed cats in Malaysia. Char in Siberia. Right, so I've sent this thing virtually all over the world. The unfortunate thing with this hook, and this is Daiichi 2151. If you can find them, buy them. Because after they sell out of these hooks, they are discontinued. You can't get them anymore, which is a big mistake. Because there's a lot of guys that look at this hook. Why do you get a hook like that? Because it creates a flat spot when you start your thread and you tie in your eyes, right? So 3/0 monocord, that's what I use. I don't care what color it is because it's going to get covered up. Excuse me a second. I should have done this earlier.
What's this called?
The DDH Leech. Like I said, this pattern has taken so many different. I've tied it up as big as 6/0 on a stainless steel saltwater hook. Tarpon, hermit, snook, bonefish. Like you wouldn't believe the saltwater species this fly is taken, as well as the freshwater species. And the list is in my book. So we're going to start the thread at the eye. Now the loop is ground down to a point. So that's where I wrap the thread to. Now you can see a little lump here. I'll wrap the thread back to that lump. Stop there. Now, I am a production tyer, which means I like doing one step at a time. So when I tie these at home, I will have anywhere from 5 to 10 dozen sets of eyes. So that's 60 to 120 flies, and I will just do the eyes. Then I get my marabou out. If I want to do a dozen in one color, I pull off a dozen feathers, I do that dozen. Pull off another dozen feathers, I do that dozen. If I wanted to do 2 dozen black, I'll do 2 dozen black, as I know I'm going to do a midnight fire black and an olive green and black tail. Right? So I do it one step at a time. That way I can do anywhere from 12 to 18 in an hour. I don't like spending all night tying 6 flies. I want to conserve my time. If I spend a day tying, I can do 300 to 400 flies, depending on the pattern. Right. So I'm really happy to do this as a production tyer as opposed to just tying one complete fly. So tonight we're just going to tie one complete fly so you can see it. So you're going to take these are what they call medium gold bead chain eyes. Going to do one wrap like that to hold the eyes in place. And you notice 2, 3, 4. Did they spin? You don't have to hold the eyes. They didn't spin. Do 5 in the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And putting a lot of pressure on this thread. I do another 5 this way. I do another 5 this way. Then what I'll do is I'll take the thread between the eyes and the shank of the hook. It's one wrap. And every time I wrap, I pull down tighter. I'll come in front. I'll finish, do a whip finish on here.
a hand.
Oh, the eyes are on. Not hard, is it? If you got the right hook. If you just had a regular hook, those eyes would be spinning around, and you can see, you can feel that, and their eyes are solid on there. So what I do, I check to make sure that it's straight. Adjust it. Ooh, too far. Okay, so that's straight now. So I use woolly bugger marabou for the tails. And this is a nylon sewing thread that I'm using here. It's really tough and durable. So I start that right behind the eyes. Trim that up. Right. When I measure the tail, I want it to be 1 to 1.5 times the length of the shank of the hook. So that's going to be the perfect size for the tail. I switch hands, right? I only have to cut the tip of this off, cut it off, put it behind the eyes, and wrap it down. As long as you don't pull out half the feather with your wet, clammy hands. Now, when I'm at home, this is the second step. So what I would do is I would wrap to the eye of the hook, whip finish, cut the thread, take it out, put it aside, get the next one, tie in the next tail, take it out, put it aside. I keep on doing that until I'm done, right? But since I'm showing you how to do this, like
Well, then get on with it, for fuck's sake.
dubbing twister, right? Put your fingers, get all the fibers back from the tail, form a dubbing loop. Wrap that back to the back, the point of the barb. Wrap it forward. Do a half hitch. Right. Now you're ready to put your dubbing in. And for those interested, I do have some dubbing here that I'm selling. It's $4.95 a pack. So if you want to get some of this dubbing, it's the guys. Ian, how is this dubbing?
They use it all year, like, pretty well. One of the only dubbings they use, like Mexican other stuff. It's well.
Yeah, it's longer fibers than the other dubbing that you get from other suppliers, which allows you to do a fly like this. It also allows you to do really great. I have a pattern in my book that is just this material. It's damsel fly nymph, Rebecca's damsel, and it's awesome. So I use this on bodies and like everything. I use it on dry flies. Now, on this size of hook, this is size 4. I'm tying so many of these, I put in 8 clumps. Doubled over the thread to make the loop, so I'm just putting in 8 clumps of dubbing. Now, the reason I know it takes 8 clumps dubbing, when you tie 2,000 or 3,000 of these per year, you know how many clumps dubbing you need, right? Now, if you want to do like a bait fish pattern that I have in my book, which is a white tail, do 2 clumps of white, 2 clumps of red, 4 clumps of the head color, whatever head color you want to use. And you can see samples. I have samples of my DDH leeches and other flies there that you can take a look at. So, as long as you have 8 clumps. So what you're going to do now is just going to twist it. And you're going to look at this and say, his thread isn't breaking. And that's why I use this thread. It's a sewing thread. I haven't broken it yet. The other thread you can use, you can order it from Fly Life Canada, Simperfly Nano Silk. You can twist that till the cows come home and it will never, ever break. Right? This is a pretty tough thread. So dubbing brushes that you buy, I find are no good. Battery brush. Right? You can brush a snot out of this and it will not break the thread because the fur is covering the thread. So you untrap all the loose fibers. Now, the cool thing about this dubbing, when you take it out of the brush, it doesn't really maintain the same color because there's other colors in the brush that you pull out with it. Right? So what I do with this, I have a bag. It's at home. Put that aside. I make a whole big collection of all the different colors of dubbing that I use. And then I blend all the leftovers into a single color. And you get some amazing colors. Don't ever ask me to duplicate it because I can't. It's a one of color. Right? So I'll show you after I finish tying. But I'll show you a package of one color dubbing. So doing this is really great because you get that one color of dubbing. And it can turn out to be just a money maker when you're out fishing. Or it could turn out to be a dud. You don't know until you try it. So when I wrap this, I'll sort of move the thread up on the shank a bit. Because when I wrap, I want the first wrap to be hair right by the tail. Comb everything back. All right, we'll wrap 3 wraps of hair. And you notice how all that's trapped. So I'll brush all this out. It's easier brushing it out now than after. And this is all you do. Bringing the fibers back, wrap in front. Bring the fibers back, wrap in front. Now, when I get to this point, excuse me, what I do is I'll do a figure 8 around the eyes. That's one. And you covered that spot that was empty. Go the other way. Oh, round and about. Bring the thread up behind the eye. You're going to brush all the fibers out of the way. Right? Comb everything back. Boom. 2 wraps to hold it in place, untwist it. Form the head. Four steps, fly is done. How easy is doing 4 steps when you're tying a fly? Really easy. Can you tie a lot of these in an hour? Yes, you can. Can you tie as many as me? I don't know. Depends on how fast you tie. Okay. So I'll do a double whip finish on this. Now, the great thing is, when I do these, because I do 5 to 10 dozen at a time, I have foam at home. I will stick all the flies in the foam. I do all my head cementing at once. Right? So usually what I do is I brush this out. After I get a dozen done, I brush all of them out. Paste the hair back so I can head cement the thread. Boom, put it in the foam. I got big pieces of foam about this long and about this wide. I line up all my flies on the foam. Then I head cement all at the same time. Instead of head cementing, putting it in foam, then doing all the steps all over again and tying another fly. If you do it in steps, you create a very, very durable fly. Why? Because if the thread at the head comes undone, it's only the body that comes undone because the other 2 have whip finishes in them and you don't have to worry about it because the fish can't hit those. Because you whip finish at the eyes, you whip finish when you do the marabou tail. So the only thing you have to replace on your fly, if it does wear out, is a body. Right? So you don't have to tie a whole new fly. It's awesome. Right? So that's a DDH leech. This is probably my best color. Brown. Right? Like I said, I shake a lot. But like I said, bass, trout, pike, walleye, you name it, they'll hit this fly.